Well, good morning and welcome to Zen Live. Got a good show for you this morning. I watched too much Rachel. And the big news that really has stirred my imagination is the demise of O'Reilly. And for the last 20 years or so, there have been two pillars of Hercules that hold up the whole Republican Fox worldview, Rush on the radio and Bill on TV. These two immovable spots, let's put it this way, centers of the media world that express the Republican power and strength and vision. And now Bill's gone. So and this was the tent pole that held up Fox, 8 o'clock, Bill O'Reilly, everything. This was the hub, all the spokes around it, So we'll see what happens now. But I wanted to look at this in a larger, with a wide angle. I'm a photographer and I understand wide angle and narrow focus, So we're always narrow focusing on something, and I always put on that wide angle lens because then everything's in focus. If you have a narrow lens, just the thing you're looking at's in focus and everything else is a blur. Put on the wide angle, everything's in focus. Those are two good analogies right there. We're going to use those. The wide angle, everything's including everything. The narrow focus, you just focus on the one thing, okay? So let's look at these two forces. There are two forces in nature. We all understand them. If you get on a merry-go-round or you do a yo-yo or anything, is the centripetal force and the centrifugal force. I just really finally understood these recently. We all hear them, but we don't really see them at work in our own mind. You see, if you follow me and you kind of like hang out with my talks, you'll understand that I see the external world as a mirror reflection of my own mind. Now that is not arrogance. That's called mirror awareness, where the external world becomes a metaphor or a means by which I can understand how my own mind works. Because the external world and the internal world is one, yet it's two. But when the oneness is understood, then we see the external as a reflection of the operational system of my own mind. So I get to understand my own mind by seeing the external world metaphorically as a reflection, you see. Because I can't see my own mind. So I see it reflected in the external world, and then as I understand that as a metaphor or reflection of my own mind, then understanding blooms, and I see. So let's look at these two forces in reference to Bill O'Reilly. So hang in there. We're gonna go for a ride here. Centrifugal force is kind of like zoom out on the Google map. As you start with the center, which is where you are. I'm right here in Blackstone. So if this were, I think I got these reversed. Uh-oh. Let me switch this around. This one here is, okay, this one here should be over here. This should be over here. So let's do this. This one is going inward to conservative. This one here is going outward. Okay. Centripetal is these are really difficult words. Centrifugal. Centrifugal is going outward, and is going in. And this is going out. So I'm a little bit dyslexic here. So let's get this straight here. Okay, so the centripetal force is the force that is going in towards the center, towards the one dot, like the atom. Or if you're on the Google map, you're going to zoom in to where you are, that little X. If you're on the centrifugal map, you're going to zoom out. So you're going to go from your little X here, and you keep zooming out. Blackstone, Richmond, Virginia, the United States, the Earth, you're still going out. You're going out in space. You're looking at the galaxy now. You know, there's no end to that. You're going out infinitely in space until the whole galaxies, trillions of galaxies, becomes no bigger than the spot here, you see. Or you go in, journey to the center of the earth. These two are two science fiction directions. Journey to the center of the earth, centripetal force, going in, you go to the body, then you go into the cells, then you go into a cell, then you go into the cell of the cell of the cell, and you keep going until, like Alice in Wonderland, you disappear. So either direction. Alice in Wonderland, going shrinking, 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 trying to find the spot that cannot be divided, going outward, 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 trying to find the whole that cannot be divided. You see, so each force is going towards the same thing, which is the one that cannot be divided. One is the inclusive, and one is the exclusive. But they both have the same desire, which is to become the one that has no second. And that is the definition of God. The one that has no second is the definition of God. So both directions, both forces, if you put it into a religious context, are seeking God, but in different directions. One towards the center, one towards the periphery, ever expanding, ever shrinking. And this is everything is doing this. You're either including or you're excluding. You're either embracing or you're refusing. You are either compassionate or you are putting the law down. No, you can't. You can't lift the hammer. You see. So these two forces are always seeking balance, because when they're out of balance, things fall apart. A merry-go-round, when a roller coaster or these amusement parks are all based on and I'm not in physics now. I'm just using this. So don't come and call me on being wrong in physics, because I have no idea how these things work, except their general directions. Okay, so don't come and beat me on the head with my lack of physics, because I don't claim any physics. But anyway, these all of our plans, flights, ship. Remember Hidden Figures the other night? That was all about these two forces. How do you get that astronaut to go around the world? And then how do you sling him off to the moon? How do you get the astronaut to go around the world? And then how do you get him to come back in? And how do you get him to come down to a particular point? That was the whole point of the movie, Hidden Figures. The math. They had to discover the math that would bring this, that would work with these two forces, you see. So in a slingshot, or you get the what's that athlete, the shot put, or that where you're swinging the ball around, swing it around faster and faster and faster, then you let it go, and boom, you see it goes. So these two forces become creative when we work with them together. But when they get out of balance, the whole thing falls apart. You remember Zorba the Greek, they built this structure which was the balance of these two forces, and it was out of balance, and the whole thing fell apart. So, and they danced. So let's move on. How does Bill O'Reilly fit into this? Well, Bill O'Reilly and Rush are personifications of centripetal force. They are the center Okay, so Bill O'Reilly personifies the one that has no second. That, in other words, Bill O'Reilly is the personification, a media god, if you will, who embodies this center that cannot be moved. Nobody could move him in an argument. Wherever he went, he was the center. He was the commander. He commanded the space. He commanded his show. On an interview with him, he was the center. You couldn't push him around, couldn't push him off. So he represented this, in his person, the immovable point or center or hub around which everything revolved, you see. So this is primarily, now we're going to talk a little bit about politics, and by mean here, so just take this loosely, it's just a loose comparison of how these two forces work out in our two political systems. Because the search for the one is primarily a conservative domain. That's why conservatives want to have the presidency, because the presidency is the personification of the one. There's only one president. So everything is the world is in flux, and how do you stabilize the world? By finding the one. So when the world is changing, and the world is confusing, and the world is tipsy-turvy, and nobody knows, everything is being bulldozed and changed, and globalization and loss and gain and all of this going on, this becomes a very anxious, terrifying situation for our own individual sense of self. So we yearn for the one that stabilizes us. We learn to find our center in ourself and in the world. Like finding the tents coming down. Where is the tent pole? There's one tent pole to put it up. So Bill O'Reilly kind of represents that tent pole that holds up Fox News, which is kind of like a media universe. So this desire for the one to stabilize change is a conservative impulse, stability, security. And you can break this on down. So the conservative, this to get to the one that has no second, the process is eliminating that which is not the one. So if America is going to be the one, you see, the center of the world, the universe, this, by the way, was a Wilsonian idea, having just watched the World War I in PBS series. So the one is the center that cannot be moved, but you get to it by eliminating, through analysis, that which is not the one. So that's why you get into a exclusive movement. Conservatives happily say no, and the tool is analysis. And if you want to keep breaking it down into generalities, you would say that the conservatives represent wisdom, and the conservatives represent the male point of view, law and order, stability. You got to measure up. You can't be a slacker. You can't just be on the welfare. Get out and get a job. The father talking to the children. The father saying, you got to lift the hammer. And there is an absoluteness to this view, absolute truth. We're not not flip-floppers. We're not wishy-washy. So this whole idea was personified by Bill O'Reilly and Trump, for that matter. However, we'll get into that in a moment, because Trump is not Bill O'Reilly. Yet he personifies this principle. But anyway, we'll get into that later. So, but this can go towards arrogance. So Bill O'Reilly is accused of being arrogant, as all authoritarians tend to be, if they don't have balance with the other force. So what's the other force? All right, the other force, centrifugal. That means ever-expanding universe, including more and more rights, including more and more people, including more and more immigrants, ever-expanding. This is the embrace of the mother. All my children. I keep having babies. I keep having children. I just love them all the different colors, all the different races. I just love them all, you see. Just come on in. You'll have a place at my table. Here's some food. If you can't get a job, I'll give you some money. Just come on in, you see. So this is kind of like going for seeking the whole by inclusion. An ever-expanding universe. This one here is an ever-shrinking universe. Shrinking, holding, center, expanding, embracing. And so we have the movement here is inclusive. I'll include. So the path to the whole is by including new parts. Instead of excluding this new information, I'm going to include it. So you have an ever-expanding idea of truth, and here you have a holding on to the truth you've got and cutting off the new stuff that comes in. So here you have compassion versus wisdom. Compassion, accepting, wisdom, holding to the truth. And then you have here, if you want to put it in a role, you would have the female mother versus the male father. And so truth here is relative, and truth here is absolute. So as you can see, religion naturally would go into this search for God. God is the center, the one that has no second, and you get to God by excluding what's not God, or sin. So you get to God by excluding sin, and this path would be, you would get to God by including the sinners. So both of these we find both of these paths, in the Bible. Love your enemies would fit over here, not over here. Love your enemies would be including in the love of God, and here it would be excluding. You don't measure up. Get out. Trump yelling to the protesters, get out, you see. Not come on in and tell me what you want. Give me your view, you see. Get out. So these two forces are in competition on the political field, you see. And there's like two, one's going this way, and let me see if I can do that. One's going this way, and one's going this way, right? So you get this, right? And each one is seeking to dominate the other. But in fact, they have to work together if the system is going to work. And when they work together, you have, excuse me, creativity. You have a new idea. You have a new idea of reality that contains the two forces. So you have wisdom and compassion, which are the two wings that make the eagle fly. If you have wisdom by itself, you end up with arrogance. And if you have compassion with no wisdom, you end up by being permissive. Or other things. But you see, if you just have one wing, you're going to fly in a circle. If you have the other, you're going to fly in a circle. So you need both in order to fly straight. So Bill O'Reilly's fall is almost like the king is dead. Long live the new king, whoever it's going to be. I think it was going to be Tucker Carlson. But there will be no duplicate of Bill O'Reilly. Like him or hate him, he was the one without a second. So, I think we can stop there, and we'll pick this up tomorrow, because we're really really digging into, I'm trying to share with you how the external world reflects. This is a map of our own consciousness, which is always trying to stay, when ambiguity arises, which means ambiguity is a double-bind situation where you don't know what to do. It's a lose-lose. I don't know if I should take this job or that job. I don't know if I should go with this person or that person. I don't know if I should have tea or coffee. I don't know if I should be assertive or hold back and wait. I don't know if I should take this or if I should leave it. I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. All of these are situations where ambiguity rises and we don't know. We lose our center. When we lose our center, when we lose our Bill O'Reilly, we're confused. We don't know, we stutter, you know, we become, but we can't act. We can't be John Wayne. We get a fibrillation. You know, the heart fibrillates when it loses its beat, and it goes boom, 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 and you have to go smack it, boom, boom, boom. But when it fibrillates, I can't choose. I'm frozen. You know, in battle, when the soldier freezes, the captain comes up and snaps him. Wake up, boom. You see, so Bill O'Reilly is the wake-up call, slap. You see that? Stop that female fibrillation. Be a man. Pop. So that's that center. Restores center. So we all need a Bill O'Reilly in ourselves. But on the other hand, if we were just Bill O'Reilly, we'd become an arrogant asshole. So we need the other side too. We need an intuitive understanding and compassion of the whole, you see. Instead of just the me, we need to understand the whole in which me functions. So the understanding of the whole is empathy, I see your side of it, I understand your feelings. It's compassionate, relative connection. This side tends towards just me first, arrogant. I'm the center. Wake up, you idiot. Bam, you see? So these two really have to work together like a mother and a father in order for the child to become a whole person. If one of these is dominant and excludes the other, the child is going to go in circles. He won't be able to function as a whole individual because he's only got half a mind. So both of these forces have to find balance, you see, in order for an individual or for a nation to become whole. In order for a nation or an individual to become one. Bam. So the path to oneness, wholeness, balance, creativity is by balancing these, understanding these two forces. And when these two forces come into balance, we create a greater idea of who we are or who the nation is. And so oneness is achieved not by this path or this path alone, but by the transcendent of this pair of opposites. You see this like two breasts, right? This one breast is going this way, one is going that way. And here's the nose, right? And it goes to, when these two are seen as one, you create, the force of these two creates a new idea of who you are. You transcend these pairs of opposites. You don't go with one or the other, or eliminate one or the other, or exclude one or the other. You put these together and ride them into a new idea of who you are. And this is what Avatar is all about. See how I just jumped? Avatar was, here's Pandora, here's the Sky People, here's the tribal, liberal, inclusive, here's the exclusive, one, arrogant Sky People. And Jake Sully is the transformative hero who puts them together in himself and is reborn as the one, like in the Matrix, the one that has no second. It's the one that includes the opposites instead of excluding one or the other. So we'll leave it with that. We have made some big leaps here, and I hope you followed, because what we need in the world today is more understanding and not more analysis. So I'll see you this evening at martini time.